Hey guys, this is our podcast. We don't really know what we're doing, as you can probably tell, and as you'll probably know throughout this process. But we're going to give it a shot. It's something to do during lockdown, and something quite interesting that I thought we both want to try out.
Sounds good. So what I think we'll do first is we'll just give you guys a general introduction on us, sort of our backgrounds, what we're doing at the moment, what we've done before lockdown, training-wise, and sort of where we're heading with everything. Joel, did you want to start with that one?
Yeah, can do. So I've done sport and exercise science at college, and I'm doing that at Bath University currently. So I'm was in my second year now. Obviously, everything's kind of messed up because of coronavirus. But yep, so second year sport and exercise science at Bath Uni. Training wise, I used to be a powerlifter. I kind of still am, but definitely got more into bodybuilding over the past year or so. And would definitely like to try something bodybuilding wise in the near future.
Yep, cool. So I'm Joe. I've also did sport and exercise science at college, then went on to do my first year as strength and conditioning at St Mary's University, after which I dropped out just because I was more focused on the sort of one-to-one training side of things, and the uni course there was more focused on team sports, as that I just wasn't really interested in. So I've come back home now, and I'm currently working at my local gym and I would have completed my level 2 gym instructor if it wasn't cancelled for obvious reasons. And then looking to move on and get my level 3 in PT. Over the last few years, I've sort of focused my training onto hypertrophy training, sort of in the bodybuilding area, whilst also focusing on nutrition, which I'm currently enrolled on my level 3 nutrition as well. And then moving forward in the future, I look to, finalize those qualifications and start running PT work through the gym. And yeah, really try and take that off.
Yeah, great. Sounds good. I mean, I also do. I am qualified as a PT as well. But as a PT, obviously Joe is in the process of getting that. But yeah, I qualified last year. Been working up at the uni gym, but not had any clients yet. And we both do a bit of online coaching.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. And obviously, on top of all that, we run all of our social media. So myself, I've got Instagram page, and so does Joel, where we regularly posting all the free sort of advice that we can give out there. Obviously, as myself, unqualified, I can only give out advice at the moment, sort of especially in the realms of work at the gym, whereas Joel be a bit different being fully qualified.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you've got how much you know qualifications wise. Everybody has experience, and I think it's just being careful with how much you can actually give out as a qualified person as opposed to someone who's unqualified with a lot of experience.
Yeah. Whereas we both have a very good amount of experience in the topic now. So nutrition, obviously being unqualified, I still have 3-4 years of nutrition, just regularly doing it in day out, sort of everything to do with nutrition, dieting, etc. And Joel does too, and especially with his training, powerlifting, bodybuilding, he's got plenty of experience within those sectors, as do I.
Yeah, I think training wise, I feel more confident in like programming and just general overview of training. I think you would probably be better in terms of nutrition, in your expertise. At least my nutrition is not as good as my training is, knowledge wise.
Yeah. I completely agree with that. Sort of where I'm at, training wise. I could program training, but my expertise would definitely be more focused on the nutrition side of things. Whereas yeah, like you said, you'd focus more on the training. But yeah, we can do both, I think, equally very well. But it's just where our expertise lie. And yeah, I mean, throughout what the duration of this podcast, for the next few weeks, we'll cover some pretty interesting topics that dive into sort of both of those areas of expertise: nutrition, training, programming, etc., setting everything up.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've already got a few topics outlined already, but hopefully once this first podcast is up, once we actually find out what the name is going to be, hopefully we'll be able to kind of get a bit of traction and a bit of a following for this, and you'll be able to input some ideas of what you want to learn about.
Yeah.
And hopefully, if we know about that, or if we don't, then we can find out about it and kind of give it out in the best way possible.
Yeah, obviously, and again, all of the information in the podcast will be from the best of our knowledge. I mean, that like Joel said, if we don't know something towards a question, we'll research it to the best of our knowledge, and give it out in the best form we possibly can.
But obviously, if we're not qualified, we're not going to say what we can or cannot say.
Yeah. So, did you want to move on with a couple of questions?
Yeah, so we both put up a Q&A. Obviously, you get the Q&A bots that come around, but did have a few questions from a few people. I think we're just going to do a few questions now, close off the podcast, and then hopefully if anybody's got any feedback, whether that one needs to be posted in the comment section of YouTube that the podcast can be uploaded on, or whether that's through DMs on Instagram for either of us. Obviously, we can address that in future podcast episodes.
Yeah, 100%. And like Joel said before, if you guys are listening and you come up with anything you'd quite like to hear about, make sure you do drop it in the comment section below, and then that can be a topic further on in the next couple of episodes.
Yeah, definitely.
So did you want to start with one of your ones first, or?
Yeah, okay. So diet breaks in powerlifters, that is the topic. Do you want to talk about what diet breaks are?
Yeah, I can do. So from my understanding, I would implement a diet break phase when one of my clients / athletes would potentially already have been dieting for a long extended period of time, say maybe between 10 and 16 weeks. I don't think I would ever think about putting a diet break maybe before 10 weeks, as I don't think it would be necessary unless the client was showing symptoms, or not symptoms, but signs that they may need one. I would run it. So they've been dieting for an extended period of time. Potentially their training is not as good as it once was, or it's started to drop. And then also the diet fatigue that they're building up. So if then they're all of a sudden starting to feel very like cravings, not slight cravings, but to the point where they want to break, they want to go out and they want to binge, then we would implement a diet break. And in that period of time, I would push the client's macros back up to maintenance level, or maybe slightly higher than maintenance level, for 1, possibly 2 weeks, depending on how long we think we need it for. Basically just to sort of replenish the client's body, replenish the client's sort of hormone balances, etc. I'm not going to dive too much into that, obviously, because that's not an area of expertise. I'm not qualified there. But we would do that, and then after that we continue on with our diet. So the real sort of diets that we'd be looking to implement diet breaks in are the long extended ones, potentially contest preps, or if client has a lot of weight to lose. Giving them that 1 to 2 weeks break will help their training maybe to improve or to come back a little bit, and help retain a little bit of muscle in the process. I don't know, is there anything you wanted to add on to that?
I think also a psychological break. If you have been, depending on how extreme the diet is, if you have been in and out, just constant, every macro has been hit consistently for, like you said, 10 to 14 weeks, that kind of period of time, it does get to your head, whether you notice it or not. Having that little bit of a break does actually kind of make you human again. Does just kind of reset the clock, just make you realize, okay, it's good to have a break every once in a while. But once the break is over, you get straight back to it. And having, say, a week off is not going to have like, it's not going to have that many negative effects, which is why you implement them.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I would say, with the sort of physical break of it, along with that mental break, you brought that up. That's definitely a good point to bring up. That is a major impact. And yeah, bringing calories back up to a maintenance, in the long run, actually isn't going to do any. It's not going to have any adverse effects, especially if you're not going above maintenance. Even if you had finished a diet and you had brought it back up to maintenance straight away, there wouldn't be too many adverse effects there anyway. I'm not 100% sure in the context of powerlifters. You probably want to touch on that.
Yeah. Powerlifting wise, obviously, the dieting, you want to look at the purpose of a diet. So the purpose of a diet for a bodybuilder, for example, would be aesthetics, to get lean. Performance isn't too much of an issue if that drops. But in powerlifting, the diet would be to cut body weight to reach a certain weight class. That is the simplest version of it. So depending on how much you have to lose and how aggressive you are losing it, will obviously depend if you need a diet break or not. If you're just slowly losing weight, I don't think a diet break is necessarily needed, or at least it's not something that you need to have in. You can have it if you want, but it's not necessarily something you need to have in. Something you might want to consider if you are a powerlifter and you are dieting is the physical changes that you're having. Yes, aesthetics is not a priority, but you will be losing fat, and you will be losing fat from certain areas in your body. Now, when performing the big three, maybe not so much bench, but your squat and your deadlift, your leverages are going to change. The bracing around your belt, if you have a lot of fat around your midsection and you cut 5 kilos, you may not go down, say, a notch in your belt, but you are definitely, the changes are definitely going to be there. And it's going to be something that you're probably not going to be used to. So potentially having a phase where you just try and maintain your body weight for a while, to get used to those technique changes that you might have to implement, just to make sure that you're kind of reinforcing the technique, and the leverages changes from losing weight doesn't put you off too much. But also something like increasing the frequency that you do those lifts. If your body is physically changing and you have to change your technique, for that to adapt, then obviously having a higher frequency in your training is going to mean that you're going to get more used to the movement. But yeah, at the end of the day, like, it is going to be slightly different, and potentially at a lighter body weight, your brace might be slightly different as well, and you might be weaker in some movements. But that is how it is. And especially in a powerlifting point of view, having that extra bit of kind of, say, cushion is a positive thing. But obviously, too much cushion it might be negative based on the weight class that you're in.
Yeah, and I don't have that sort of background in powerlifting like you do, but I'll be right in thinking that sort of powerlifting, you'll be looking to cut down to the nearest weight class. So if you're sort of 90 kilos, you'll look to go for 83, not 70, sort of thing. So
yeah, so it's not going to be a massive drop, but it depends on the person. If you are, say, currently, like myself, I'm 6'1". I'm currently 99 kilos. Now, nearest weight class would be 105. There's also 93. I have been in 93. I've also been in 83. very light 83, very small 83, and probably still quite a small 93 just because of my height. So if I currently, yeah, okay, I have got a bit of fat on me, not too much, but it would be detrimental for me to go back to the 93s because I wouldn't be able to brace as effectively, and I wouldn't have that cushioning around the joints. And just obviously, like I said, a big drop from 99 to 93,
Yeah.
6 kilos, like, is quite a lot of weight. Even though it may not seem like much for some people, some diets out there, you might lose 10, 15 kilos, but yeah, 6 kilo drop would definitely obviously change my technique in each of the movements. So potentially I drop down to say 96 and then pause for a while, hover around maintenance, and then make a further push down and maybe implement, say, a water cut, just so I'm not having to physically cut down all of that from body fat as well.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, sort of with the mechanics of your movements, dropping weight, you might actually sort of circling it back to the question, back to the sort of diet breaks thing. You might be looking to go for a diet maybe that actually doesn't sort of come anywhere close to the diet breaks kind of thing. So if you were 95 kilos and you need to get to 93, you might not be looking at implementing a diet break at all. Obviously, because you don't want to cut that much weight. Powerlifting is a very strength-based sport. So, if all of a sudden you're cutting down 10, 12 kilos of body weight, then it will have an adverse effect on performance.
Yeah, for sure. Do you want to go on to one of your questions now?
Yeah.
Unless you've got anything else to add.
No, not on that topic, I don't.
Okay.
So my first question I've got on here is best exercise to gain mass on the rear delts. I think this is quite an interesting one because I think we'll both sort of have a very similar view on this question. From my standpoint, I would say there's no best exercise. I would say that your best exercise would be the exercise that you can connect to the best. So say, if I was going to implement for me personally, when gyms reopen everything, I enjoy a heavy chest supported rear delt pull dumbbell. So keeping that chest nice and flat, making sure there's no lift off the bench, and then just driving up straight through the elbows up with a heavy dumbbell. I like to keep that. I train very much in that 5 to 9 rep range with an extra set of 10 to 15 or 2 extra sets of 10 to 15 sort of thing. I would say the best thing for growth is obviously eating enough, recovering enough, and training with enough intensity. And also then volume management. So making sure that you're doing enough, but not doing so much that then you can't recover from it. So, recovery is massive on the whole growth side of things, as well as eating enough. But training wise, your best exercise is going to be the one that you can connect to the best. And then the one that you can pour as much intensity into as possible. I don't know what you want to add on to that.
Yeah, for sure. I think obviously taking into consideration something that you can connect well to is definitely going to be key for the growth side of it. But I think also something that challenges you throughout the whole movement, rather than, obviously most movements will be more challenging in certain areas than others, whether that's the machine or the resistance that you are using, or the movement itself. So what I mean by that, like you said, the chest supported row, kind of having kind of that really wide angle, that is going to get harder towards the top, because you're going to be weaker at the top portion of the movement. So if you could adapt that exercise to potentially make it heavier at the bottom and lighter at the top, it would allow you to kind of you're a little bit stronger at the bottom, so you can kind of keep pulling, and and still get that good contraction at the top because it's dropped off nicely. So you can maybe pause in the movement, really control the eccentric. But yeah, having a movement that kind of the resistance matches the strength of the muscle and that movement is going to be really key, I think.
Yeah. See, so I mean, what you're talking about there is strength profiles, isn't it?
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
I think we can probably cover that in a separate podcast completely,
yeah,
because
for
there
sure.
is lots to talk about there. But like you said, making sure that sort of the bottom of that movement, if you can find a way to adapt that, so you can keep strong in the bottom of the movement whilst still connecting to the muscle throughout the top of the movement, but it being slightly easier at the top, so you can get the full shortening of the muscle, would be perfect. Just for, I guess, to put some exercises out there, what are sort of your favourites for some rear delt work?
Yeah. I mean, every kind of upper body session, I will warm up with some face pulls. I enjoy these a lot, and I perform them on a TRX band. Talking just briefly on that strength curve kind of thing with the TRX, because your feet are on the floor. As you come up, you're more of your body weight is being supported by your foot, so it is getting lighter towards the top. So I can hold it in the top position, slowly let it down. But also, yeah, a rear delt row, like you mentioned there, with a dumbbell or even a barbell works quite well for me. Just focusing on kind of keeping my elbows out to the side, even kind of protracting my shoulders and just focusing on the elbows out. That works really well for me. I can get a nice connection from that.
Yeah, I'm very similar to that sort of thing. So I would opt for a face pull, and then a rear delt row, or perhaps even a rear delt cable fly. Just for me personally, those are the sort of exercises that I can connect the best to, get the best contraction out of the muscle. Therefore, I guess as well, we both know how our volume works, how to maintain our volume, how to maintain intensity, so we can train sort of at our maximum, while still being able to recover from it. Trying those exercises, finding those exercises is brilliant, and then from there is, I think personally, I would say just trial and error on volume management, and then also fatigue management. So like I said before, finding the maximum amount of work you can do to the maximum intensity you can do, whilst still being able to recover from it, so it doesn't impact your sessions in the future. Yeah, I think. Did you want to add anything onto that, or?
I don't think I have too much to add. No, that's about it.
No, cool. Do you have any other ones that you'd like to go through, or did you want me to jump in?
Um, I think we just got that one last question about kind of taking advantage of this scenario that we're in. Obviously, more directed towards training and nutrition, but also just overall, we are in this weird scenario that no one has really experienced before, of a total lockdown. Kind of the world is in panic, and it's not a great scenario overall, but kind of some great things can come out of it by having more time. Obviously, working at home for some people, I've still got to do my uni work, as frustrating as it is. Some people still have to work at home, but some other people do kind of work is done, or at least at a lesser kind of priority or a stress, because it can be done at home. There's less traveling, and we all have a bit more time on our hands. And with more time, I guess the question was kind of addressing, should we be, I think it was your question, you're training like the pros?
The original question was, should we be taking advantage of training like the pros? So having, unlimited time to rest, unlimited training time, unlimited time in the day, basically, to, get everything done. And, like Joel said, we're in this situation here in the UK, especially, where everywhere we are on a complete lockdown. Like you said, some people have finished work, etc., so they do have excess time in the day. And to be honest, it's quite an interesting question. as I'm sure you'll have lots of things to say about it, as will
Yeah.
I. But on the topic of sort of training, or training like the pros. So I think, yes, we should be taking advantage of it, especially, if training means as much as it does to me or you, or, some other people out there. I think it's definitely worth taking advantage of. But I think there does have to be sort of a limit. If you're looking at it just training focused, so solely focusing on training, training for 1 to 2 hours, being able to rest for the rest of the day is perfect. Having all of the time in the world to prep your meals, prep your sessions for the next day, get good recovery, get optimal sleep, sort of fall into those routines and patterns is incredible. And it's not a benefit, obviously, for the situation we're in, because it is a horrible situation that we're all in. But like you said, some good things can come out of it. So in these few weeks that we have, unlimited time, getting into those routines probably is the best thing. But I would say there does have to be a limit. Training for 6 hours is not going to be optimal, as much as some people would like to do it.
Yeah, I definitely think I think it's using the time to make your training, your nutrition, your goals as effective as possible. Use your time as effective as possible. You've got a lot of it, so make the most of it. So whether that is training for as long as you need to, or that's not training excessively, but like you said, 6 hours plus. But it's training optimally, so fitting training around your meals in the perfect time. If you're at work and you can only fit in a meal at 12 and you've got to train at 6 but you can't eat beforehand, that's kind of one of those things that you just accept and you get on with in life. Because of the scenario, now you can kind of adapt it and say, okay, I want to see what works best for me. Okay, I'm going to eat this, and an hour later I'm going to train. Okay, that feels great. And now you kind of know what works, what is the most effective kind of pre-workout routine that you might get into, whether you have work priorities, you can kind of plan them in around it. There's lots of different things like that, but I think as much as you need to get into, you can kind of try and make the most of it by getting into a routine. I think it's also quite a nice break for people to get out of a routine. I know I was tracking my foods every single day. And just for the past week or two, as this has all come down, I've just said kind of like, I'm going to track my body weight, but I'm not going to track my food. One, like, part of that is just because I know the general calories that are in each of my meals. I know roughly that this, say, volume of pasta, this amount of pasta, like by eyeballing it, is roughly 600-700 calories. And I can kind of just take that approach, and I have just been doing that for the past few weeks, and it's been quite a nice, just not like a diet break, but more of just a mental kind of break from just, okay, got to get my fitness pal, and just that constant, all the foods that you're eating, but just constantly doing that kind of just regiment process, which I didn't necessarily feel like I needed to do. Tracking body weight consistently, just, okay, I've made sure I got enough protein in the day, and my body weight went up from the night before. Okay, I'll make sure I try and eat slightly less today, so it doesn't peak as much, and then it dropped a little bit. And as long as it's not kind of fluctuating too much, there's no issue there.
Yeah, yeah, I completely sort of agree with that. Obviously, you've given there some good examples of sort of how you have utilized sort of the situation we're in to your advantage.
Yeah.
I think obviously the question was about training like the professionals, and taking advantage of the time that we have. Slightly moving a little bit off topic, I think, as much as training we can use, it can be important for us. we do have I want to say all the time in the world now. For some people, especially those that maybe aren't working, I think utilizing the time optimally elsewhere is very important as well. So, for example, we've got a lot of time, so we've decided that we're going to start a podcast. Now that we've both got time, we've both got flexible sort of hours to record and stuff. It's a lot easier for us to record. So hopefully, over the next few weeks, we're going to be able to get regular episodes out to this. And that's sort of something else that we're going to do with our time. So, whether it's like furthering your knowledge, over the next few weeks, I'm going to look to finish my level 3 nutrition. I'll also be advancing sort of starting my level 3 PT course. As much as that has sucked that I can't get my level 2 checked off because the course was cancelled because of travel and obviously gyms being shut, etc. The company that I'm doing it with have been kind enough to offer me onto the level 3 early without the level 2 just because of the situation. So, I'll start getting that checked off, and then, hopefully by the end of this, we'll all come out of it better, or, more knowledgeable. We will have completed something that we're looking forward to doing. So in sort of a summary, I would say, yes, take advantage of the unlimited rest, the unlimited time to prep, the unlimited training time, but also then look to better yourself elsewhere as well. So don't just train and then rest. So train and then play games for an hour or 6 hours. I'm sure we both have done that in the last few weeks.
We've done that too many times. Yeah.
There's other things to be doing to take advantage of that time.
Yeah, and I think it's all in balance. You are having a break from your regimented work and normal life. But for me, I'm back from uni. I'm with my family. I can spend a bit more time with my family. Like, you can build up new routines that are important to you, but you can also kind of get the things that you have been missing because you've been in a routine. And I think it's just kind of taking the positives of a negative situation.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I don't really have anything more to add on that.
No.
Any more questions, or?
I don't think so. I mean, yeah, no, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, cool. So I think we'll end this podcast there then, guys. So this one's just a quick sort of introduction on us, and then just touching on a few brief topics. Over the next few weeks, we'll be looking to get out regular episodes every Sunday, Monday, should we say?
I think, yeah, every Sunday or Monday would be good. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So every Sunday, we'll probably most likely we'll pick a topic, sort of talk roughly or briefly on that topic, and then maybe dive into some subsections in more detail. And then, every now and again, we'll throw some of these question boxes up on our Instagram and then take some questions from you guys.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if there is a topic that we do go into and actually it requires more than one episode, or there's a specific point in that question that actually is quite a big area that shouldn't just be kind of briefly mentioned. Like today, we had a quick question and there was a bit about the strength curves. That is quite a complex thing, but can be simplified like it was today. Hopefully you might have understood that slightly. But it can definitely be put into in more depth and also applied, going into more programming wise with kind of routine. So push-pull legs programming, it's taking into account the strength curves when programming, but also taking into account the situation that we're in. Lacking in equipment, and the tools to do so and manipulate your training, it's going to be quite an interesting talk, just to kind of see what you can do with the tools that you've got to make an as effective as possible workout.
Yeah, and then that also, stretches us on into the topic of setting up programs at home and, setting up, push-pull legs, sort of workouts within the vicinity of only having resistance bands, say, or only having kettlebells. something like that. So there's
Yeah,
lots
for
of
sure.
ways we can dive into those topics, which we will do in the coming weeks. Can you imagine?
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, have you got anything else to say?
Um, Not really, apart from if you did enjoy this, sorry for the rambling that we must have done. And it will get better as the weeks go on. And if you do enjoy it or have any feedback, positive or negative, then do let us know. Comments or DMs, like I said before, then that'd be great. Do you want to mention your Instagram handle?
Yeah. So mine's just Joe Fiddler _ that's my fitness one. Sort of I post. I try to keep it regular. I did take a little bit of time off, but now I'll try and keep it regular with just sort of tips, tricks, fitness, nutrition, training, those sort of things. Then you crack on with yours as well.
Yeah, mine's Joel Clark Training. Similar stuff. I focus obviously a bit more about the training, but I think I should try and get into a bit more of the nutrition stuff as well. But yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah, cool. So we will catch you guys next week, if
Thank
everything
you for
goes to plan.
listening.
Cool. Thank you for listening.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.